Hi amigos, Commander Jaime here, and my teammates and I did very well at the BSF Team League in Chicago. We got 4th place overall. I will be doing a quick deck profile and my personal tournament report in this video. Literally, my deck build has not changed since my top at the ARG in Annapolis last month, so I will just be saying some quick highlights. For the more in-depth deck profile, please go to see that video already on my channel. Thanks. So let's get right into it. For our starting Vanguard, Bubble Edge. Bubble Edge is still putting in work, where first try you can just explode and end up with 10 to 15 cards in hand, especially pairing up with a Saberflow and some Restander. That way you can get those 2 extra draw off of him. And if you add an Orphea, you get the extra 3rd draw from that. It's also helpful in the mirror match I had with Thavas, where in the rush build version of Thavas, they try to call down rear guards to push you to damage, basically. And I just fought back with calling some rear guards, of course, and I got the first stride. Bubble Edge is there to help recuperate my hand and still build up about 10 to 12 cards in hand pretty easily. And because of that, I was able to win the matchup. For the triggers, I'm still playing the 6 crit, 6 draw. The 6 draw help a lot with consistency, especially in the early game when you hit that on a damage check, on a drive check, it puts you so far ahead. That way you can actually do a successful first stride turn and have this massive hand at the end of it. And then of course in the later game, if you hit a draw, it only helps you maintain that big hand as well. You want to make sure you have your combo pieces before you can actually do your stride turns on top of that as well. You can also call them to your rear guard as an attacker if you really want to push some damage in. Usually this is helpful against Victor or in the Thavas Mare. The 6 crit, 4 Petros over the 2 Sailor, because Petros, I usually use her a lot, and what I mean is that either she's a booster to help make numbers, such as if you throw down a Nikki to get the right Thavas, if you have a Melania too, that makes an 11k, and if you have a behind her with a Saberflow, it makes a 12k line, so that way you can actually hit Vanguard, and then you just swoop it up, make your Vanguard 31k base, which is a little more threatening than just the 26k base, and it's Fuse the Soul without minusing. The 2 Sailor is still appreciated, and I think I used once the skill in the event. Helped me push harder to finish the game. And I usually don't need it until the end of the game, so the 2 is just fine with me. There's Play-Doh, there's the heal trigger here, Refit, where you can usually use her for the counter charge. And then the last thing you want to do is use Gaphilia, because putting down a Gaphilia face down hurts the Alexandro's turn. For grade 3s, we're playing the 7 Thavases. Supreme Ruler definitely at 4. He put in a lot of work as a Vanguard and a rearguard. For the Vanguard, he put in work against the Overlord matchup, making sure you don't have to fear about Denial Griffin, because you got the inherent resist units such as Sipla and Melania, and then you could just give Saberflow, Adelaide, Taito, and so on all the resist that they need to push. For the rearguard skill, it helped a lot in finishing some of my games, definitely. Especially when there's an Orphea right behind him to get that 3rd attack and at such a big number. 3 OG Thavas. He still has his uses in certain matchups where this guy is useless at Vanguard. So you might want to retire some back row. In my Messiah matchup, I actually rode the OG Thavas and discarded this as Stride Fighter. And my opponent was like, wait, what? But it didn't matter because I had Sipla, Melania, and Orphea on the field, so it's you can't even lock my board, you can't lock from hand, you can't lock for drop like Chaos would, so I'm just going to retire a card per turn, essentially. Having the consistency of the Thavas name, you don't have to worry about miswriting into something that doesn't have the Thavas name, forcing you to do an awkward play, going into Commander or into Wailing. For the grade 2 lineup, you definitely need the 4 Saberflow. It's necessary to build up a lot of hand, so that way you can keep going in the mid game against the other top tier decks that can generate a big hand advantage and still do pressure on your first stride. So that's very important. It's pretty much the only reason why I feel like Thavas can actually compete most top decks. I feel like right now, before GBT 14 hits legally here, it can pretty much beat anything with the exception of the leaders and Victor to a point. So with the Saberflow, you're able to guarantee your other matchups, for sure, having the hand size. So you can guard effectively. I PG'd, I G-guarded pretty easily, and it helps seeing your other pieces consistently, especially when you're playing 2 ofs and 3 ofs, such as Orphea and Melania, and your other combo pieces throughout the game. Taito also put in work. Against the Victor matchup, I actually called it the rear guard, just to, the game plan is to try to hit as much out of their hand and put much damage on them before the first stride, and you win the first stride, so you can seal the deal before they actually just steamroll you. Other than that, I will actually just ride them and save the other grade 2s in hand, such as Saberflow and these two, Cipla and Adelaide. So that way you can explode on your first stride, and boom, you're in the promised land. Adelaide, I'd rather have her on the first stride turn because she's 11k base and doesn't minus. Whereas in Tidal, I'd rather have him in the late game. That way I can get that free restand after like the second or third Alexandros, where he's so damn big that the minus 5k literally does not matter. Adelaide also puts in work where you can Soul Blast Plato if you road him, so that way when you perfect guard for the first time, you actually counter charge as well. Cipla is still beneficial, especially because she is the inherent resist unit, and it's also a constant 11k beat stick. Sometimes I ended up poking with her as an extra attack using ruler skill. She made powerful 21k columns or even bigger ones after an Alexandros boost with a 7k booster. And she gives you the draw when you need it too, if you need to counterblast 1 or 2 times that turn to get 1 or 2 cards. For the perfect guard, we're playing Plato. He's the counter charger. He's definitely well appreciated. I use them and Refet, the heal trigger, to counter charge for most of my games. He's the ideal Vanguard ride target on your grade 1 turn. That way you can Soul Blast him out with Orphea or even Adelaide on your first ride turn. We also play the 4 Nikki, making sure you're consistent enough to pay the cost of stride with only 1 card. It fucking hurts when you stride with 2 cards in Thavas or in Aquaforce in general. So definitely having that Nikki to stride with is much appreciated. I also call in a rear guard if I really need to fix my Thavas grade 3 in my hand, such as getting the ruler out against the Overlord matchup. And sometimes he could be a little beat stick by himself, poking in the early game, and then you can also put like a 4k like Petros if he's still alive to make an 11k mark. With Melania and Orphea, Melania, again, she has inherent resist, helps us against the Overlord matchup. She's basically like Cipla, or Cipla's like her technically. Gets you the extra draw when you need it to, and is also a booster if you really need the resist booster on top of that too. Orphea is the better resist booster because she can make something attack once more, and she is really stupid on the second and third Alexandra's turn, where the power up is so big that your opponent is going to have a really hell of a time guarding that, basically that column that's going to attack 2 or 3 times after an Alexandra's power up. She came in clutch a lot. She helped me finish games on the second or on the third Alexandra, definitely. And again, since I'm playing the massive amounts of Saberflow and the draws and the bubble edge, just having 2 is enough for me, and I'll draw a lot of cards so I will actually see it. For the strides, 3 Alexandros. I haven't had the need the 4th. 3 is perfect. Usually you end the games with the second or the third Alexandros. The third one definitely puts a nail in the coffin. Lambros is there if they deny you counterblast and you're going into your second stride after the first one, Alexandros. And so basically then you use Gafila and you can countercharge and still do an effective Lambros turn. I didn't use him for the event, sadly, but he still needed it too. Command the Thavas is there, usually helpful against the Chaos matchup when you really need it. Here and there with a Messiah matchup, and sometimes if you have a wonky setup, he might be the first stride you go into instead of the Alexandros, saving you a counterblast and something. But for the event, I didn't even use him, but I definitely recommend too. Miguel, I still have not used him at all in Thavas. Honestly, I use him in Night Rose more often than enough. But he is there in case your ass gets Drachma and you're stuck at grade 2, 1, or 0, and you can perform ultimate stride still. That way you can potentially come back and still win the game. Or when your opponent's basically just ripping through your cards in your hand, and literally you have that 1 copy of your Vanguard, and you do ultimate stride. Wailing Thavas is there for like the mid game or even the late game against control. Vanquisher is a good example. Overlord too sometimes. And sometimes you need to get rid of a field, and that might be more important than Alexandro's turn. So you will go that route. I didn't use him for the event, but he can come up. Definitely having that 1 wailing puts in work. The Sabreeze is actually the second stride that I actually got into the whole G zone. Literally the only 2 strides in this whole event, I went into Alexandros and Sabreeze. Sabreeze, I think I went into 2 or 3 times in the event. And in Thavas, you can abuse the Seabreeze turn because you have cards like Saberflow, Tidal Assault that are free, your Petros, and the cards like Cipla, Adelaide, and Melania that cause a counterblast, and even Orphea to an extent. You can get the extra draw or the extra attack from those and still make a good turn working with 2 to 4 counterblasts that turn. For the G guards, I'm still playing 6 G guards. Pretty much the stride zone has freed up thanks to Alexandros. The 2 ice barriers come in clutch when you're playing against Chaos. Usually their Vanguard attacks first. Against Overlord that doesn't play stands, Gridora that plays 12 crit, and so on. Having that second ice barrier can come in handy. Also for the mirror match, when the 4th battle more comes like super huge, or even against Victor now, it definitely helps having that extra 10k shield instead of relying on your other G guards for the shield power. 2 Ophelia. She is there for pretty much 9 times out of 10 the first flip that you use for Alexandros on first stride. She's there to be flipped for the flexibility if you need to countercharge, or if you're in the Link Juggler matchups, usually Chaos, you use it to unlock stuff. I haven't felt the need that I needed 3 or even more than that. 2 seems to be the perfect number because the first one gets flipped, and then if I need to G-guard with the right number, I just use the second one for actually G-guarding. And then I haven't actually needed to flip 2 Gophelias to get either countercharging or unlocks, but it's there if you could do it. 1 Ionis because you can flip another card in the G zone mainly. That way your Alexandros following turn gets the 10k boost just by G-guarding once, essentially. Sometimes you have units on the board, such as resist units, that just linger there. So once you start hitting like 3 rear guards or more, that his value as a shield actually starts being worth it. A Gleam is there to help fix your hand a bit sometimes, and even discard unnecessary cards. And what I mean by that, if you have extra grade 3s, you can discard them. Like the OG Thavas is useless unless you ride them. If you have like a draw trigger, which more than likely you will, you can discard it and hope get something bigger or an actual combo piece. It helps filter your hand for the actual combo pieces or the shield value that you potentially need that turn to survive. Onto the tournament report, I was seat A. Miguel felt like it would be a good idea to be seat B because he felt Eduardo and I were more up to date with Vanguard meta and have been playing more recently than him due to work. In the past experiences, I noticed a lot of teams put their best decks or players at CA or at C, basically at the ends. Eduardo and I didn't really care to be A or C, so then I just ended up being A. Miguel was playing Overlord, and Eduardo was playing Victor, and of course me, Thavas. So round 1, I faced Amon. I won this one, and my team won as a whole. So nice player. In my head, when versing Amon, I just said, I hope I don't get critted out of the game. Because some Amon decks try to rush you and run a lot of crit, and so that's, I guess, how they win. But for most of the whole time, I was in control, and I won on second stride Alexandros, essentially. Round 2, I faced the Thavas Mare. I won this one as well, and my team as well. So when I rode to grade 1, he made me go first. On the following turn, he rode to grade 1, and then he put Mitchell's in the front. So I took the opportunity to take out Mitchell's as soon as I could. That way, he didn't have anything on first stride, but I still had my Bow Edge in the back row. So during the early game, we threw down some units, and eventually I got the first stride. And on my first stride, thanks to Saberflow and Bow Edge, I was able to accumulate a big enough hand, about 12 cards. And then I lived his first stride turn, and then the following turn, I just went on second stride due to him having a small hand and already being at like 4 damage or 3 damage. So, yeah. Round 3, I faced Asha. I was facing my friend Joseph. He's also known as Le Funk Doctor on Reddit. I won and my team won as a whole. We were fighting for first stride for a few turns. And what I mean by that, we stayed at grade 1 for about 2 to 3 turns. I actually get the first stride. His first stride, though, was Lieta. He does a play where he gets 3 PGs into hand at the end of the turn due to the Forerunner skill, and he played multiple of the Forerunners. So when they went into Soul to call those PGs from deck, he just bounced them back into hand. And so during his attack, I didn't realize all those PGs were going to bounce back, and so I kind of G-guarded an extra just to get an extra power up to Alexandros. But then I was like, crap, I don't think I can finish it now in the next stride turn. So on my second Alexandros turn, I flipped back a Gophelia that I G-guarded with, or I flipped from the first stride. So that way I can G-guard once more the next turn in case I needed to survive that Valhamina GB4 turn, basically. Because I already had 4 G-guards face up, so I needed to flip her down so I could actually G-guard. And I did have the heal in hand, so that definitely, I needed it. And I believe I used Saberflow or Sipla to generate an extra card or 2. That way I could help survive the next turn as well. I live his Valmina turn. The G guard did help, and I had PGs, of course. So once I survived that, I came back on the third Alexandros, and I pretty much win that turn. It was a good game with LeFunk Doctor. It was good to play him again. Last time we played was the Night Rosemare, literally like a year ago. So yeah, kudos to him. Round 4, I faced Gallop. I actually know my friend. His name is Ryan. He's from also Card Fighters on the Ground. I lost, but my team won overall. Thank God. Thank God Miguel coming in clutch for the tiebreaker. So what kind of happened is that I called the Nikki to search for the right Thavas, and I discarded the other grade 3. What I really should have done, I should have just kept that grade 3 and discarded some other card, but I didn't want to because I had like grade 1s and grade 2s. So it's not like I could just discard a Malika or something like that. And I was just like, oh, I feel like I'll get the Stride Fodder or the grade 3 by then, and that kind of stuff. But because of that, I wasn't able to stride effectively. So I had to stay at grade 2, otherwise I would just like get behind, especially just not worth it at that point. But what happened is that he also had Laurel in the back row, and even though I did some pressure with an earlier title assault, it was just like, I'm going to lose this, and I can't even stride to generate enough advantage and do a play. So I didn't even get to stride, he didn't get to stride, and then I just lose on a crit on his Vanguard drive check. But thanks to Miguel, it was he had the Mare match, the Overlord Mare match, and he came through. So thanks to that, we were able to still win as a team. Round 5, I faced Gallop again. This time I won, and my team also won as a whole. I stayed at grade 1 an extra turn because I had to go first. I get some early game pressure with an extra title that I was able to work with. I think I had like 4 grade 2s, so I was like, I'm going to throw down title and get some early pokes against, Gallop. I get the first strike too as well. I generate a hand, and then his first strike, he goes into X lead. I'm not sure if that was the right play. I even asked Jonathan Gall in the day about it, and he's like, I don't think that's a good play. And I'm like, I don't know. Shout outs to Jonathan Gall. He was there at the event too. So he does the opponent does the X late turn, and I survive it. And so the following turn, I just take it with the second Alexandros stride. Round 6, I was facing Victor. I won, and my team also won overall. The game plan against Victor was the early pressure and the fight to get first stride. Our grade 1 drive checks got crits. I actually was forced to go first too, so I stayed at grade 1 for an extra turn. I threw down Saberflows too on the grade 2 turn, as much as that was feeling awkward. But I was able to put him in 4, and he rode to grade 3 the following turn, so that way I would get the stride next turn. And it really came close because his last attack was the grade 3 drive check, and I was at 4, so I couldn't guard that. And I was like, no guard, and I was like, if I lose with a crit, I lose with a crit. But he didn't drive check a crit, so I live, went to 5, went to my turn, first strode, and I just won at that turn. And what sealed the deal too on top of that was when Alexandros attacked his Vanguard, he was at 4 damage, he's at no guard, and I drove check a crit. And this time I actually put the crit on Vanguard because I was like, this is probably the only time I'm going to kill you. You have about 4 or 5 cards in hand, and you might survive if you block the following out-of-lay attacks. So I might as well just seal the deal there. And it did. So that worked out. Thank God. Round 7, I faced the leaders against Maverick. He's also from Card Fighters Underground. He was with Kevin Cho and Albert. They were Tony Stark as a team. I lost, and my team lost overall. So basically, I was stuck at grade 2 for 2 turns. I did not see a grade 3 for whatever reason. And so I rode onto Saberflow afterwards to purposely not give him CB after that. So I went from a 9k Vanguard to an 8k Vanguard just so I could attack with Vanguard only against his grade 2 Vanguard. So that way it will be a 1 to pass. And any triggers I got, I would just put on the Forerunner. So that way I didn't give him damage. But still have my drive check, so I wouldn't lose out on advantage. So eventually I get the grade 3. He stayed at grade 2 as well for an extra turn. And I guess he wasn't ready for the setup just yet. And so I get the grade 3, and then I Sabreeze him. But after that, I didn't really get anything from the drive checks, and I didn't really get much advantage from that because it was awkward. Not to mention that I rerolled grade 2 with the Saberflow, which could help at that situation. But whatever. The following turn, he did have the given, and I got no triggers at all on my damage check, so I went from 3 to 6 pretty easily. So that's how I lost. So now at the end of Swiss, I'm basically X2 personally. As a team, we're X1, so we made it to top 8. For the Swiss, we made it 4th place, and then in the future, we made 4th place overall at the end of top 4. And so, top 8, the first 2 rounds of top 8, Thavas was doing miracles. Just to give you a heads up. Let's get into it. Round 1, I face Overlord. I faced my friend Jasper's team. They're called D-Way. His friends Kevin and Jason were his teammates, and I faced Jason. So this one I won, and my team won overall. So the first thing we did is that we played the grade 2 game literally for 4 turns. He drove check 3 draws during the early game, and luckily I healed 3 times, one of them being on the drive check and 2 of them being my damage check. So he was getting that +1 every turn from the draw trigger, but I was being compensated by the heal triggers, having that buffer essentially. So he writes a grade 3, and on my following turn, I actually get the first stride. And I end up with a 14 card hand, and I get, my advantage to that point. His following turn, he goes into Ascend. I survive it. Then I go into the second Alexandros, but I was cautious on my deck. I noticed that my deck was low, and it was because we went in the early game a little too long, and then of course I was taking cards out of my deck by taking damage. And because of the heal triggers, it seemed like, wait, I didn't take that much damage. But oh yeah, I got 2 heals, and actually 3 heals in total. So that's like 3 cards out of my deck. So that's like basically a strike turn, essentially. So that's why I was like, man, I got to watch out for my deck. But thanks to playing Grand Blue, I already know how to deal with that. Had no fear. So being cautious of that, I had 2 Saberflows, and I decided not to use them. So basically I went on the more aggressive turn. And it was okay with me because I still had a big enough hand at the end of the turn. I believe I had like 12, 13 cards in hand still. So his following turn, he went to Ziegenberg, and he did the turn with 1 rearguard column, and so I had double PG, and then I think I G guarded with my actual heal, and then that bumped it up to increase the power of Alexandros essentially for the next turn as well. So then I go into my 3rd Alexandros, and it was just very big. I made Supreme Ruler as a rear guard with a Norphia behind him, around 41, 51k, and I drove check a crit, so I gave all effects to the Ruler, and so he's swinging with crit 2, and he was at 4 at the time, so any of these attacks with crit 2 would just put him to 6, and he had to take the second one, boosted by Orphea, and he went to 6 and lost. Very good game. Always good to face Jasper and his friends. Shout out to them. D-Way. Round 2, I was facing the leaders again. Once again, we're facing Maverick and his team, Tony Stark. I won this time, but my team lost. I should have lost this. So, with Thavas performing miracles, this is probably the most luck-sack story I've ever done. So this is what happened. I rode to grade 3 first. He stayed at grade 3 and had the given. I was at 2 damage, then I took the 3rd damage, I hit a draw trigger. I took the 4th damage, I healed, so I heal. Take the 4th damage once more, and it was another heal. So now I just became a 15k base deleted Vanguard, and I live that turn. I do an Alexandros turn, trying to push hard to cripple him enough. He re-rode grade 3 the following turn, deleted me, and he used another given. So he had basically, this is his 2nd given turn. I took his first Vanguard attack, no triggers, so I got 1 damage. I hit a heal while he's at 4, so I heal again. Then the 2nd Vanguard attack around, I take it while I was still at 4. Basically, I blocked the other attacks before getting to the 2nd Vanguard attack. This is the last attack unless he drive checks a stand. He gets a stand. Fuck me, right? But I get a draw trigger on the damage check, and from it, I get a PG. So when he attacks with his rear guard, I just PG the next attack, and literally win the next turn. So, yeah. Whew. You should have seen me there. I was just like, oh my god, like, Dak, I love you so much. I really don't want to lose this, especially if I'm the tiebreaker. And boy, it was just crazy. What sucked though, Eduardo and Miguel did lose their games. Eduardo lost against Albert, and then Miguel lost to Kevin, and he was the tiebreaker essentially, but he had to deal with a favorite chat turn. So that's really hard. And again, the Overlord matchup with Victor is pretty hard on him too, so I don't blame him. So round 3, we're playing for 3rd place, basically.
Win the bronze medal! Oh, that's cute. I like it. Oh, hilarious. You're a funny guy, Joey.
I was facing Messiah, and I won this one, but my team lost overall. We were facing the team called The True Way. I stayed at grade 1 for an extra turn to win a first stride, and I also rode the OG Thavas just to get that first stride pop in the back row. So he had the starter, and then he had a lady fencer in the back row due to locking from the deck. Yeah, they're kind of like gold paladins now, where they can lock the top few cards of the deck into Regard Circle, basically. I hit 2 triggers and put them on Sipla because of the Orphea abuse I had. I had a few of the Sipla, Orphea, and then on the other side was Melania. So that's another reason why I went into the OG Thavas, because I had no fear. Messiah can't really lock from hand or drop just like Chaos would, so I didn't have to worry about that. So because of the 2 triggers abuse, I was able to get extra pokes and made him drop extra guard on top of that. He G-guarded like 2 times, I think, or 3 times or something like that, and then he goes into Integral. But of course, it doesn't have the, put you to 5 cards in effect, because it needs Messiah and the G-Zone face up. At first I got scared. I was like, oh my god, all this hand, and now I'm going back to 5. Oh fuck, I'm dead. But then I realized, I was like, oh wait, you need Messiah in the G-Zone, and you just G-guarded, and none of the G-guards are Messiah, so I'm okay. But he uses for the second skill, which is still pretty good. Gets a draw on plus 10k. And then the next turn, I just finish it with the Alexandros. Again, with a ruler and an Orphea behind him. And just, it was too much for him to guard everything, and I put him into 6 damage. So in conclusion, our team ended up at 4th place, which is still very good in my eyes. We actually got the mats too. As you can see, this is the top 4. Top 4. We also got the certificates, which is really nice. We tried our best, and it was our first time as a team together too. I would do it again, if they're up for it. I do plan to get more videos of Miguel's and Eduardo's deck lists and experiences of the event soon, so look forward to that too. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend groups in real life and in Discord. Thank you guys for helping me with advice and practice. There's so many of you guys that have helped me throughout the years and even now, so I appreciate it, and it helps me keep topping. And my goal is to consistently top as much as I can and improve as a player. I also like to give a shout out to Solom for giving me a recent shout out he did to me in his recent Megiddo Night Rose combo video. He also mentioned to his viewers to check out my channel, which I really do appreciate it, amigo. This weekend, I believe with this shout out and me talking to players at the event, bumped my subscribers from around 300 to almost 350, which is a huge bump for me, at least. 50 subscribers is like, holy shit, that's awesome. So also thanks to all the recent subscribers for subscribing and seeing my content. I really do appreciate it. So now, what's the plan now since GBT 14 is going to be a thing now? I do plan to play a little bit of Grand Blue, Regalia, and Shiranui now more often and get some CFA videos out there for those curious. Shiranui is something I'm really looking forward to because I started Vanguard with Nugatama and it has been producing really good results in LCG. Genesis is also my 2nd clan, so I'm excited for Regalia. Aquaforce is actually my 3rd clan going into the G era, especially when literally the trial deck and GBT02 came out. That's when I actually started playing Aquaforce as one of my favorite clans to play with. Thavas has been a really good time to play recently in the competitive scene. I am very content with it. Saberflow is the way, my brothers. Believe me, it is. So, amigos, leave a like, comment down below, share with your friends, and subscribe. See ya!